How exciting. Okay, so I've never shared my screen before, so this is quite exciting. So I'm just going to cruise through here. Um, for this presentation, I took, because this is my first time meeting you as a group, I took a lot of information from my annual report that I presented to the city council 2 weeks ago. And so there's a lot of information in terms of statistics and kind of what we do. But then I also embedded information about my team specifically because I've got 42 people that work for me that are just the cream of the crop. And I love to celebrate all the amazing things that they do. So forgive me if I am verbose and if I carry on a little too long. It's really just because I've got an incredible team and I want to showcase all of them. So, as I mentioned before, my name is Anne Wigginton. I work with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, currently a captain. Oh, hey. Okay, so 66,489 is what our population states it is now. We are just under 20 square miles in the city of Yorba Linda. I've got 4 areas. We call them beats for the sake of areas of patrol and jurisdictions. So you can see in this top left side, you see YL1. That's my 101 or my 401 car. I've got 2, 3, and 4. And then you see at the very bottom, kind of in the middle of the screen, YL7 and YL8. Those are county areas, but by contract, we respond to calls for service in the county areas as well. Those are just Yorba Linda unincorporated areas. So anything you see within the green, that's our team. My deployment, 1 captain, 5 sergeants, 3 investigators, 20 patrol deputies, 2 traffic motor officers, 1 DUI and traffic enforcement car, 2 that are assigned to my special enforcement team, and I'll explain what they do a little bit later. 1 assigned to my direct enforcement team. That's a little bit more of an undercover type of an assignment. I've got 1 school resource officer and 1 admin deputy. In addition to that, I've got 3 community services officers, and they're the ones that go out and take traffic collisions, write citations for parking and the like. And then I've got 3 professional staff, one of which is my office specialist up front, an investigative assistant that aids my investigators in their jobs, and then also my crime prevention specialist. And I like to joke that she's in charge of everybody. We just show up wherever she tells us to go because she's the boss. As I mentioned, my crime prevention specialist is Katra Molina. My investigative assistant is Amber Clary, and then my front office specialist is Valerie. These are my 5 sergeants. Donnie Lee over here on the left, he's my administrative and my investigative sergeant. So any of our admin duties plus all investigative concerns go through Sergeant Lee. And then we've got our deployment is the first half of the week, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and every other Wednesday, and then the other Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So it's day shift and night shift for those 3.5 days, and then day shift and night shift for the remaining days of the week. So A side and B side is what we call that. And right now I've got Daryl Romero, Daniel Packham, John Hopkins, and Manuel Ramirez as my patrol sergeants. 3 investigators, Moni Fowler, Kelly Schnebley, and Brant Lewis. These 3 shy from absolutely nothing. They will go out, they will search for video surveillance, they will help a grieving widow, they will help absolutely anything. They will investigate anything other than a very specified crime, such as a homicide, because downtown in headquarters, we've got a specialized team for that, right? Same with sex crimes, economic crimes, and then family violence. And all of those go downtown to our headquarters. That's kind of the beauty of having the sheriff's department as a contract, because we come with so many resources. So anything other than those specialized investigations, these 3 are in charge of here. My 3 community services officers, Janine Aristando, Jose Arce, and Heather Prechtel, and they are busy, busy, busy. I've got 1 school resource officer. Her name is Dan Lee. Two deputies, Mohammed and Min, they are assigned to my special enforcement team. These two get to drive around in an all black car instead of a black and white. And sometimes we kind of like to joke about that they get to be a little bit more sneaky. So they can go hide and wait for a burglar, and maybe they won't be identified so quickly. And they have the ability to not report or not handle assigned calls for services. They actually get to go out, and I give them a ton of liberty to go establish relationships with crime prevention folks and establish relationships with loss prevention folks at our big box stores like Kohl's, Dick's, Target. So they've got a wonderful opportunity to go out and really just handle any special kind of a case that I've asked them to do. So lastly, I have Deputy Renault. He's my administrative deputy. Here you see him with our off-highway vehicle. And while I don't have mounted unit assigned to Yorba Linda, we use them rather often. So we included a photo of our mounted unit as well. I've got one DUI car, and I've got a photo of the two of them, Mark Castro and Luis Perez III. They just handed over the baton. Mark Castro got promoted to sergeant, and so now Luis Perez III is going to take the helm between the two of them, because we knew that Mark was going to be promoted soon. Between the two of them, they really ramped up their efforts, and between the two of them, they got 64 DUI arrests this year, or this last year. And then I had to add in an additional 20 that was DUI arrests that were taken by Yorba Linda Police Services personnel as well. I love, love, love that Deputies Castro and Perez both earned the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award for having over 25 DUI arrests for the year. I will say that Deputy Castro on the left is a centurion because he has well over 200 DUI arrests. So good people to have out on our streets, especially late at night. For 2025, we had 22,773 calls for service. Of those, 10,000, just over 10,000 were assigned calls for service. Literally, someone called and said, I need the sheriff's department to come and help me because I can't solve this problem myself, or because maybe we just have some additional resources. 12,000 of those were observed calls. And that means that if the phone calls aren't coming in from citizens, that means that the deputies get an opportunity to go out and be proactive. And that is my favorite part of police work is you see a car driving by, that car doesn't look familiar to me. And I challenge my deputies to pull over cars that don't look familiar to them, or that might be behaving erratically, or might be what a neighborhood might think is casing. So those are the observed calls, and we love to give them credit for that. On the right is literally just an example of different types of calls for service that we might respond to on a daily basis. Year over year for arrests, we increased by 12% in 2025 with 745. Of those, 187 of them were felony arrests. 138 were misdemeanors. 287 misdemeanor cites, things like Prop 36, really challenged us in law enforcement. So now that Prop 36 is back on track, now we can continue on with our misdemeanor cites. And then 124 warrant arrests, meaning that somebody failed to go to court, and it's our job to make sure that they make it back to the courthouse to see a judge. Collisions, we had 96, which was up 9%. Non-injury was 173. Citations, I'm happy to report that the year prior, I had some challenges with my motor officers, and I had some personnel issues, and I wasn't able to have 2 motor officers deployed on their normal work weeks. And so this year they were able to nearly double their citations. So we came in at just over 2,700 for citations for 2025. We were able to make 113 drug-related arrests. Now that could be fentanyl, opiates, it could be heroin, it could be all sorts of different types of drug-related arrests. We took 43 firearms off the streets. Some of those are were from evidence. They had evidentiary value because they were used in the commission of a crime. Some of them were found, some were kept for safekeeping. And then occasionally someone will come to us and say, please take this firearm for destruction. I don't want it anymore. So 43 total firearms arrests. We really spent a lot of time and effort on e-bikes this last year. We conducted 4 community presentations at the library, the community center. We presented that safety information to every single middle school. I'm so thankful for the principals at those middle schools because they allowed us to come in and literally just take the microphone, and we were able to present safety information to over 400 at, say, Yorba Linda Middle School, and about 300 over at Bernardo Yorba and the School of Science. So in addition to that, we, along with the city, created, if you will, a municipal code. So 1080-030 was adopted on October 7th of 25. And then right now with the city, we're working on the Ride Ready campaign. That was recently launched by the city of Yorba Linda staff. We're going to be doing pop-up events and presentations, and we're actually in the planning stages of an e-bike rodeo so that we can have kids present in the parking lot. And I've got 3 personnel now that are all trained in how to teach kids how to effectively ride their e-bikes. There's no shortage of illegal motorcycles that we are towing and impounding from the streets of Yorba Linda. I will say it's challenging, very challenging. So we're working on some targeted enforcement as well. We'll be out at Village Center in the next couple of weeks, out on the El Cajon Trail, in addition to the town center, the structure, all of those locations. So all of those seem to be pretty problematic areas for e-bikes, and that's where we're headed next. Technology. So I know that you've probably seen license plate readers throughout the city. The city really invested in the safety of our city and use it as citizens when they purchased 36 flock cameras. A flock camera is a license plate reader. It is integrated with our real-time operations center, which just opened last year in Tustin. We have the ability to search a license plate. Let's say someone saw a license plate on their Ring video because they had been burglarized the night before. We can take that plate and find out where it was captured using those license plate reader cameras throughout the state and through multiple police and sheriff agencies throughout the nation. The license plate readers, a lot of people are not a fan of them because they feel as though they're recording nonstop. Not true. They're actually meant for taking a photo of your license plate and then logging it in the system. And then we can use that for crime fighting purposes. In addition to flock safety, we have Fusus. And Fusus is essentially a repository where we can integrate cameras, say from your Ring video or somebody's video surveillance from a business. And in the event of a call for service or a crime that has been called in to dispatch, our real-time operations center has the ability to pipe in to that camera and give real-time information to the deputies who are responding. When deputies are responding and they jump out of their vehicle, they're looking for a threat. They're looking for a bad guy or a bad girl. They're looking for numerous different things that are going on all around them. With the ability to have the real-time operations center deputies monitoring those videos, they can provide additional information over the radio that will actually increase our officer safety. So that's what Fusus is. Every business in the city can integrate with it. Every home has the ability to. Right now we have all city facilities have the ability to be viewed by our real-time operations center. However, The only way that they're allowed to get into that video system is if there's a call for service that's active on the board. No one can just log straight in and check out what's happening at the community center at this moment in time. So pretty incredible. Technology has really taken us to new places. So I'm super thankful. I've mentioned briefly our real-time operations center. This was a location where law enforcement personnel accumulate and analyze publicly available information. That's a repository, like I mentioned. It capitalizes on a wide range of our technologies for effective policing strategies. Man, they sure said that a lot better than I did. But at the end of the day, it helps us solve crimes and it keeps us more safe in terms of officer safety. So pretty incredible. Like, and I'll just throw out a scenario. Recently, we had a rather heinous crime down in South Orange County, and the deputies were responding. And one RTOC deputy was able to gain access to a local business because they had integrated with the RTOC, and they were able to tell the deputies where the suspect ran because he had run and hid in a bush prior to the deputies getting there. So I'll just say that this real-time operations center has been absolutely incredible for us. I lost my mouse. Community events. We're pretty, we love to be present in the community. Prescription take back days, national night out, coffees with cops, ice cream with deputies, pizza with patrol, you name it. We've got another one coming up very soon over at Bodie Leaf. So join us over there. A couple other extra pictures because I just love these events. Heroes Supporting Heroes. That's the Sheriff's Department's major organization that we give back to, and that's the Special Olympics of Southern California. So this was us at Chili's recently. And then also we joined Special Olympic athletes with a law enforcement torch run last May. We're gearing up for our next one coming soon. Chili's asked us to join with them for Heroes for St. Jude, and that supports children fighting cancer. So we joined them with the fire department. That was pretty incredible. And then Holiday Heroes, we had an opportunity to just treat some kids in the community that might not have been receiving gifts for Christmas this year. So we took them on a shopping spree at Target. And here we have in this photo our loss prevention people and a couple of the community members like the Yorba Linda Women's Club donated funds so that we could really knock the socks off these kids and provide them with a really nice holiday season. We're pretty prevalent on social media. My crime prevention specialist, Katra, is she's rather busy with creating tips and fraud scams. Don't take the bait, financial type scams, fireworks, that kind of thing. And then traffic safety awareness too, especially with the e-bike impounding of the illegal motorcycles. We love to showcase those because if any of you have social media, you know that e-bikes are the bane of Yorba Linda citizens' existence at this time. What we're currently working on is maximizing our technology. Obviously, we're always working on emergency preparedness. We've got some pretty amazing partners like the Orange County Fire Authority, our emergency manager, Chris Pena, who I believe you guys met last month or the month prior. We're still going to be working on e-bike education in addition to enforcement. We've got a pretty robust business watch program as well. We love to add neighborhood watch, and I have a slide dedicated to neighborhood watch so that we can get Cielo Vista in there as well. And then we love to patrol our using our off-highway vehicle, using our drones, and also our mounted unit whenever we can get them up here. That is a lot of duplicated stuff, but I wanted to include some of these really amazing photos. This photo you see here on the left is training that we do with Orange County Fire Authority so that basically their team speaks one language and the Orange County Sheriff's Department speaks a different language. And every single time we can get my patrol car next to one of their battalion chief Suburbans or Tahoes, and then get our two radios right next to each other, then we're all speaking the same language and it's in real time. So a lot of that is actually helpful for when a natural disaster has struck and we need to be evacuating, right? So Division Chief Mike Morgenstern for Division 4 from OCFA and I have an incredible relationship, and we talk weekly. So this was just one of those training opportunities that we had. So what is Neighborhood Watch? It's designed for you and your neighbors to learn crime prevention techniques for your home, for your neighborhood. Number one, the most important, do you even know your neighbors? Do you have a WhatsApp thread going with your neighbors or a text thread going with your neighbors? Do you know how to target harden your home? Are you prepared with crime prevention through environmental design concepts that might actually help you? If you live and you back up to a trail, have you considered putting cactus or a bougainvillea on the backside of that wall, right? So all of these things are what we talk about in our neighborhood watch meetings. And what I love to do is bring one of my investigators, my crime prevention specialist, Sergeant Lee, who's my admin sergeant. And sometimes if I get invited, I like to join them too, because I always take away something from one of our neighborhood watch meetings, because maybe it's just something I hadn't considered. And and it's also nice to just be present and meet the community and give them, the appropriate reasons to call 911, the appropriate reasons to call using our non-emergency line, that kind of thing. So if you're interested in a neighborhood watch, let me know and I will get Katra Molina in touch with you. What we would ask for is we try and keep it at community based, right? So maybe the Ride Line Street has someone who's willing to be a neighborhood watch captain, and then we come to you and we bring an entire presentation and we sit there and field questions and all that jazz. For the sake of natural disasters, we rely on alert and warning. Why? Imminent or perceived threats, disaster notifications. We use it for evacuations. We use it for public health emergencies, public safety emergencies, any notification that law enforcement or fire needs to use to get emergency information to a specified group of people. And then we can also use it to close the loop and end an event. The methods that we use for communication, we use local media, social media, agency websites. Alert OCs specifically will use text messages, emails, landline phone calls, emergency alerts to your wireless phones, and then emergency alert systems. We also can go door to door and use our sirens. All of my patrol cars are outfitted with a high-low siren with a pre-recorded message that they can just be driving slowly on Blue Ridge or Kodiak Mountain Road, and they push the high-low siren and it will spit out a pre-recorded message about how to get out, where to go, and the high-low sirens, so that we can make sure that people are aware that we are evacuating. I'm pretty sure that Chris Pena, our emergency manager, provided resources before a disaster. I won't belabor that, but I like to include it anyway. But resources during a disaster, but it's always best to be prepared long before the disaster occurs, and preparing your family is key. Last year at our wildfire preparedness meeting that brought together Southern California Edison, the SoCal Gas, Animal Control, our emergency manager, OCFA, OCSD, all of us in the same room. These are the slides that I presented regarding evacuations warnings versus evacuation orders. We've got voluntary. You don't have to leave. If we like our equestrian community to be aware that if we're in a voluntary evacuation, we want you to actually go. We would ask our equestrians to consider that mandatory. But we're really focusing on those high density facilities, schools, those with disabilities, those with functional needs, our elderly, and like I just mentioned, our citizens with large animals. That could include soft road closures. And it could be elevated to evacuation orders, which are mandatory. Um, Obviously, we use those to save lives. If it's time to get out, it's time to get out. Um, we have quarterly training with our emergency operations personnel, and we have a wireless or an application on all of our work phones. Every one of my deputies has been assigned a work phone. We all walk around with two of them. So on our work phones, we have field maps, which is an application for evacuation specifically. If OCFA tells me we're evacuating area 28, get that done right now, then I relay that information to the deputies, and then they're able to real time identify which houses were home, who was not home, who chose to stay, has said that they're going to be packing up their stuff and leaving. We have the ability to collect all that information so that we know where do we go back to in the event someone wasn't home or they didn't answer the door. So that's our field maps application. I mentioned before we also do a joint briefing with the Orange County Fire Authority. In this case, I hosted the last one. Each of our divisions, North, Southeast, and Southwest Division for the Orange County Sheriff's Department, we take turns hosting. I hosted the last one at the Nixon Library. Brought together about 200 OCFA and OCSD city chiefs, upper echelon executive staff for both OCSD and OCFA. And then we went through, what do they expect of us? What do we expect of them? Can we confirm that we're all speaking the same language? How do we best serve our communities? And then we ended with a tabletop exercise out in the parking lot at the Nixon Library. We have fun serving our community. This just happens to be 36 dogs who stopped by, and we enjoyed taking a photo with them. This is a really cool picture from out in front of the Nixon Library with my two motors and my admin deputy, Ryan Renault. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Hold on. Hold on. Making you dizzy. Oh, goodness gracious. I'll just go to the end. We just took this one up at Black Gold recently when I did a team training where I could establish my expectations once again for my team. If you've had an extended conversation with me, you know that my expectations are very simple for my team. I have three. We have to keep it simple, right? I used to teach high school, so we keep it pretty simple around here. Number one, do your job. And I know that that sounds kind of cliche, but if everybody is doing their job, then we're looking pretty doggone good, right? Number two, do your job with professionalism and respect. And I don't care if we're talking about trying to help somebody get across the street, or if we're helping someone who is grieving the loss of their spouse, if we're helping someone make it to Santa Ana because they've violated the law and they need to go see a judge, right? It doesn't matter to me what it is that my team is doing. My expectation is that they do it with professionalism and respect. And number three, don't let calls for service sit on the board. And what that means is if someone like you has called sheriff's dispatch, it's for a reason. And that means that my team shouldn't still be seated at the station or hanging out in a house of worship parking lot. They should be going to handle the call for service, right? So I live in the city too. About half of the people that work for Yorba Linda Police Services live in or immediately around this city as well. So we talk about ownership and we talk about loyalty to the citizens of the city. So those are my three expectations. Do your job, do it with professionalism, and don't you dare let calls for service sit on the board. But if they're able to do those three things, then I get to do the two things that make me the happiest. And I get to celebrate all the incredible things that they do day in and day out. But then I also get to exonerate them when they're accused of wrongdoing. I spent 3 years in internal affairs. When I got here, I came with a black cloud because everybody was afraid of me because they were afraid of the rat squad. And you know what? That's good. That's a healthy fear to have because I have expectations and I expect my team to be serving our public with that professionalism. And when they're accused of wrongdoing, I get to dig deep into that internal affairs Rolodex, and I get to help exonerate them when they're accused of wrongdoing. So that's my team. And I am open for any questions if you've got any.
Great, thank you so much. I know Bob probably is itching to get a couple of his questions answered.
What do you got?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for being the most communicative Yorba Linda police captain. Uh, I've talked with you at ice cream events and cupcake events, and you've been out there communicating with people in the city like no other captain I've seen. So thank you for showing up here as well. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So I do have a few questions. I thought I'd start with fire evacuations, and whether you were perhaps on duty for the 2020 fire or the 2008 fire, or whether you've been involved with fire evacuations elsewhere in the county.
I love that you asked that question because I was offered or gifted an opportunity during 2020. I was actually working in the jail as a sergeant. And every time we promote, we get sent back to the jail. And part of that is so that we never forget where we came from, right? And that's kind of the beauty of the sheriff's department. I was working at the Intake Release Center in Santa Ana, and I was headed to internal affairs, and I was about to be reassigned over to internal affairs, also in Santa Ana. And when 2020 kicked off, I went up to the emergency or to the EOC. So I got reassigned up there for 2 months. So I got to be present for all kinds of, whether it be the call center or the working with the policy group or being a part of the law branch. Steve, I think you mentioned that you're part of Cal OES. Was that you, Steve, that mentioned that? So anyway, I got to sit there in a room with Cal OES and with Orange County Fire Authority, and we were able to look at the maps. And so I didn't get to physically go out there and conduct evacuations because at that time I was a sergeant, I was a supervisor, but working out of the EOC was an amazing experience because I got to see and understand how incident command works, how unified command actually works. And literally what I took away from that was that it doesn't really matter what kind of a natural disaster we have going, that we can still apply the concepts of incident command. So that was pretty incredible for me and a really rare opportunity that most of my colleagues have never been able to experience.
I've got another one. In 2008, we're on a loop here on
Mhm.
Via del Agua in Stonehaven,
Yes.
and the sheriffs closed it off so there wouldn't be looters. But it seemed like it stayed closed a lot longer than it needed to be, like 2 or 3 days. And I don't understand why residents with IDs, photo IDs showing they lived on the nearby streets, wouldn't be allowed in. And I don't know whether that's an OC policy or the way sheriffs work statewide. But it was frustrating that some family members were stuck out and couldn't get back, and there were a lot of empty homes that could have been burgled while people were being kept out because probably 80% of the homes didn't have anybody in the home after the evacuation. So, yeah, can you address that about what the policies are about letting people back in? To
So
see
there isn't
what's
going to
going
be
on in their neighborhood.
there won't be a specific policy that I can point to regarding that. It's going to be situational, and I wish I could speak to 2008, um, but that was long before the sheriff's department took over that contract.
All right, that was Brea the back then,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was Brea. But I will say I've got three people that work for me here in Yorba Linda that were here in 2008 as police officers. So perhaps that's a conversation we can have at the next Coffee with a Cop because Sergeant Lee was a Brea PD officer for 12 years prior to coming over to the sheriff's department. And he was actually driving on La Palma. And the fire was passing him up in his patrol car. And so we've had many, many conversations. I wish I could speak to how long it took for them to reopen, but I can't.
I
Diane?
can keep going.
Oh,
Let's see.
let's spread it around a
So
bit
you,
in case others have questions, and
yeah,
then we'll
yeah,
get back to you.
yeah.
Perfect. We'll keep it in the same household though, since Diane has her hand up. And then Steve, it looks like you wanted to add after Diane.
Yes, hi. So one of the questions I have is we had a little bit of a problem when Brea was there in 2008, not really knowing where to direct the traffic. And so I'm wondering, do you do evacuation training in the community, particularly in the Travis Ranch and Bryant Ranch area where there are a lot of there's a big high fire hazard severity zone there. And I'm wondering if you do training, and if you do you coordinate it with OCFA?
We do. And actually, the most recent training we did was in the parking lot of the rinks, where the ice skating rink is. And that day, we actually brought down emergency management personnel, and we worked through with the fire maps, so the field maps. Um, we work with OCFA regularly. I cannot tell you that we have asked citizens to participate in any of this training because, frankly, that would probably cause an absolute uproar. But I train my team, and I think you could probably appreciate that
Yes.
me asking, you know, one of those major streets in the Bryant Ranch area to pretend like they're evacuating. I can't do that. But what I can do is keep my team up there. But we've also done that at the top of San Antonio. We've done that, you know, up in off of Blue Ridge. We've actually done that off of Valley View Circle. So we keep training rather often. And OCFA, we have we have such an incredible relationship with OCFA that because we work together so often and we train together so often.
Okay, thank you.
Claire? Or sorry, I'm Steve. Steve, I called on you next and I forgot already.
Hey, that's quite all right. Not a problem. Captain, I just thought I would suggest that you explain one particular term you just kind of threw out, and that's EOC, and what its function is as far as coordinating the efforts of all of who have to respond to a wildfire incident or something major like that.
Okay. So every municipality has their own EOC, which is an emergency operations center. And each municipality has their own emergency manager that uh, helps ensure that their EOC for their city is adequately prepared and they have proper training. For the county of Orange, up next to our dispatch center, which is Rancho Santiago Canyon Road, we have a county emergency operations center. And up there, there are roughly 25 emergency management personnel, to include Michelle Anderson, who is the director up there. And their entire jobs are to man the telephone lines for when people are calling in a natural disaster type of scenario. They It's meant to be a place where a unified command can come together so that we have the best coordination in how we're going to tackle a problem. I also got to go up to the Emergency Operations Center during COVID, which really posed tons of challenges for us, right? Because technically, when we're talking about an emergency operations center, we are used to dealing with police. This is either a police problem or this is a fire problem. And we train so often together that we can get up there and be seamless in terms of how we work through the problem using incident command. COVID gave us some really big challenges because that was an HCA healthcare agency driven event. And so we were all in a support role, but at the end of the day, it's meant for prime coordination and making sure that every single concept or resource that is needed throughout the county is able to be acquired, delivered, and then appropriately accounted for. So that's the Emergency Operations Center.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Claire?
Yeah, I have three questions. Um, who makes the call on when to evacuate? I don't feel like we got a straight answer when we asked this question last time of the fire department. Um, it, because I believe they do. And is it one person? Is it by area? How does that get communicated to you guys? And I asked that question because we've had a lot of incidents. I live in Brea in Carbon Canyon, and I've been in fires for 45 years.
Right.
And sometimes we don't get the call.
Yeah, Captain, you might interject what Incident Command does as far as these incidents is concerned. That might explain
Sure.
this to this lady.
Sure. So I'm gonna back it up. Claire, I will never be accused of knowing anything about how to fight a fire. And that's why I use my friends over at OCFA. But in the event of a natural disaster, whether it be a plane crash or if it's a wildfire, in the case that you're referring to, I'm going to be parked next to Mike Morgenstern from Division 4, or whomever the counterpart is, at the same rank as I. What we train for is to eliminate the calls that are not getting made, right? When he tells me zone 22 is going to be evacuated, I get to get on my radio immediately and tell my deputies to saturate that area and make those evacuations. I'm also not a very digitally savvy person. I'm a paper person. I'm a tactile person, right? So in every single one of my patrol cars, there's a 3-ring binder dedicated to evacuations. Literally the dummy's guide to evacuating an area of Yorba Linda, whether it be at the top of San Antonio, Casino Ridge, wherever it is. Now, inside this binder, this one just happens to be my own. I pulled it out of my captain's vehicle, but it's got incident command forms in it, like logs, and it's got every single I'm dropping stuff. Every single evacuation zone throughout the entire city. So if I tell a deputy we're going to evacuate Yorba Linda 6, they can go like this. All right, I know exactly where I'm going. And then they can update their field maps application. What we have found in the middle of Trabuco Canyon is that it's difficult, and we don't always have comms, right? We don't always have Wi-Fi, and they might not have been able to get a cow out there with electricity, and maybe their phones just aren't working. In Yorba Linda, we have not had that problem. We have not run low or run short on our communications capabilities. But in the event we do, I've also got evacuation forms that are printed out in here as well. Beyond that, I've got QR codes for every single evacuation zone in the city, and then key verbiage for my deputies to use in the event they must evacuate people. So if our high-low siren, the pre-recorded audio isn't working, they can get onto their PA system and be able to evacuate that way. So that's in every single patrol car because I don't always trust technology. Backing it up to incident command. Hold on just a sec. Give me a sec. In 2019, Cal OES came up with their revised edition. Oh my gosh, sorry. All my papers are falling. Okay, so Cal OES came up with their revised edition of Law Enforcement's Guide to Emergency Operations. And what we call that lovingly is the Red Book. This is in every single lieutenant, captain, commander, assistant sheriff's possession, in almost every single vehicle that we drive around in. And what that does is it breaks down incident command. Incident command might be just me paired up with my team, right? If it's a law enforcement specific type of a scenario. If it's a scenario that requires more than just the Orange County Sheriff's Department and we're going to partner up with the OCFA, we call that unified command. And I don't want to have to explain, but like if we're unified, we're together, right? Conceptually, right? So unified command is that's where we work at in training with the fire department nonstop. Did I answer that question? I'm sorry, I got all excited about being able to see the red book.
You did. You did, and I'm really glad to hear you have paper backup, because not only it's not necessarily about cell service capability, but lines burn down and towers go down, and when you're in a fire and you can't communicate with anybody, it's kind of scary. So,
and you're a parent, right, ma'am?
Yeah, Melanie's my daughter.
Okay, well, can you imagine me having 42 personnel who forget to charge this work phone where that field maps app is at, right? Or maybe it's dead in their locker. And so that's why I have that paper version, really, because I take emergency preparedness seriously. And at the end of the day, it's my job to ensure that if an evacuation order is ordered, then I get that message out to my people as fast as possible using my radio so that they can physically go out to the homes that are in that evacuation zone. But then also so that we can use Nextdoor, Nixle, social media, Alert OC, all of those to get the message out.
That evacuation booklet for Yorba Linda, I presume it's not online. Is that something we can see at the Arroyo Park substation or something?
Yeah, come on down.
What's that?
Come on down. I'll show it to you. It's meant for each deputy's patrol car, so they're assigned to the unit. So every shift, a deputy lugs in all of their gear so that they have, all the gear that they would need for their 12-hour shift. But this book should not leave the car. It stays in each unit. But if you want to come and check one out, by all means.
So I have one other question. And I know I harp on this whenever we have a meeting or an opportunity to speak with fire and police. But in the Canyon 1 or 2 fire from a few years ago, Melanie was living at Lambert and Kramer. And it was completely gridlocked some 20 miles away from the Canyon fire. And I know the problem with Yorba Linda in 2008 was the roads were so full that fire trucks couldn't get in and people couldn't get out. And so it seems to me there needs to be a wider control of traffic, if it's possible, than just in the city of Yorba Linda. There needs to be direction that happens in terms of traffic control with a wider perimeter to allow more options for people to stay away. And I don't know that any city looks at it that way. They just kind of look at their city limits instead of the greater impact a fire has on traffic.
I hear you and I hear your concerns. This is where I fall back on relationships. My predecessor here at the Yorba Linda station is now a captain for Brea Police Department. So we have that relationship, right? In addition to that, tomorrow at 10 a.m., I'm going to be in a meeting with the city of Anaheim, their police department, and Placentia PD, because we all work so closely together. In the event I need some assistance from Anaheim PD, I will ask for it. No problem at all. In the event I need some assistance with Brea PD, that's why we have those relationships. And that's those are professional relationships, but we foster them regularly. And I don't see an issue with that.
I think the call for their engagement usually needs to happen sooner than it does, I guess is what I'm saying.
Noted. Thank you.
Yeah, before I Yeah, before I head over to Diane, I got a little bit, you mentioned you got excited at one point to show us these things that are in the vehicles, which is so cool. As a geographer, I appreciate all the maps. My question is the overlap with Yorba Linda. So we had Chris Pena speak to us earlier in the first quarter about how the entire city is broken up into different evacuation zones. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I wonder if the sheriff's department in Yorba Linda have the exact same evacuation zones. So that is coordinated, and if you say
Yeah.
YL6, everyone's speaking that same language as well.
And fire has the same as well. All three.
Perfect.
All three of
Okay.
us have them together. And then also, Chris has spent a wild amount of time putting together the emergency preparedness plan for the city of Yorba Linda. I actually have it in my possession right now, going through the sheriff's department's portion of that, basically to ensure that we haven't overspoke, that we haven't underspoke, and that we're all speaking the same language. So, and Orange County Fire will also be able to go through their portion of it as well, and so that we are all on the same page.
Great. Awesome. Diane, and then Steve, I noticed you had unmuted. Do you have a question also that we want to add to the mix?
No, I probably just forgot to mute. But
Oh,
Captain, thanks very much for your information and explaining some of the terminology that you throw out very easily from that standpoint. So,
Thank you. I love my job.
so Diane can go, and then Steve Thomas.
Okay, so this is piggybacking on Claire's question about coordination. So she's right that one of the issues is when you have people coming from, when you're trying to evacuate from the fire, and you pretty much know where people are evacuating down the hill from a fire
Right.
or an earthquake or whatever, because that's where the fault is too. And what you run into is you run into that traffic coming off the 91 freeway, coming, like you said, out of Anaheim. Is there a plan for blocking their entry into so that the people can come out and away from where the disaster has happened, to get out of Yorba Linda and not to have fire people coming in? That's particularly true. I know you're aware of it in the Bryant Ranch area, but that we're not Bryant Ranch. We had the problem too, because people were coming from Bryant Ranch and going up Yorba Linda Boulevard, and
Right.
blocking people from coming down San Antonio, coming down Agua, Stonehaven, etc. So that's my question. Do you coordinate to keep people from coming into the community when a disaster happens?
Yes. And that's going to be situational. And that's going to be a conversation between fire, myself, and the rest of my team in terms of how many lanes are we blocking? Are we keeping one open for fire trucks? Are we opening up all of La Palma? And those are things that we talk about on a daily basis, really, because there are pros and cons for every single one of those scenarios. And based on what the fire is doing at that time and the direction that we're given in terms of who needs to be evacuated and when, that's going to change whether or not we've got 6 lanes wide open or if we have 4. Or so in that case, I wish, Diane, I wish I could give you a plan, but I can't, because it's going to be 100% situational. Are we having those conversations? Yes, ma'am, we are. I promise you we're having those conversations. And what does that look like, right? So, and because I told you earlier, I'm a visual, tactile person. So it's not uncommon for me to be standing at the corner of La Palma and Villalobos de Orbe West. What does it look like when people are heading this direction, and where are they going? Right. So we drive all around the city, and then I'll say, hey, take me to this intersection. Let's envision what a fire is going to look like. And that's where we do our tabletop exercises. So yes, to answer your question, we are having those conversations and we are training that way.
Thank you.
Sure.
Steve Thomas.
Hi, for a comment and then a real quick question. I wanted to thank you, Captain. My wife actually met you at Coffee with a Cop, and we seem to have a stop sign down the end of the street that becomes invisible from time to time. Your motor officers have showed up, and it's been fantastic. It's pretty fun to watch them
I
take
love
off
it.
and pop somebody. It really is. So
I'm amazed at how fast people go through that stop sign because I've come back and watched body cam and it's
yeah,
wild to me.
yeah.
So we don't apologize for any of those citations.
Anyway, yeah, thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. We've got a lot of kids, a lot of pets, and
Right.
it's helpful. And my question is maybe a silly one. The sheriff's blotter used to be fun to watch, just
Yeah.
to see what was going on. Will it ever come back?
I don't know. And what happened was we we left an operating system that that blotter used to be derived of. So we would
Okay.
extract information and then it would populate the blotter. Well, when we stopped utilizing that system, that was along the same time that our real time operations center was being stood up. And then all of a sudden, we just didn't have the capability to maintain the blotter. I'm going to be
Got
honest with you. I love the blotter too because I want to know
it.
what's going on. Like I said, I live in the city. I hear a helicopter above me, and you can bet 9 out of 10 times I'm like, that's been around for a minute. What's going on,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
I love to get on the blotter
yeah,
as well. I used to.
yeah,
I
yeah.
will say, Pulse Point
Mhm.
is amazing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
Firewatch is amazing as an application. Really, they fill in most of the blanks, right? So you just don't get all the silly calls for service that people love to read about.
yeah.
Problem with that, though, having worked in internal affairs, I can tell you that a lot of the details were wrong in the blotter.
Yeah,
Is it nice to get like that early version? Yes, but most people understand that like once someone gets on scene, the story isn't exactly what the caller said it was.
exactly.
It kind of
Yeah,
morphed into something different. So having that blotter was a blessing and a curse.
yeah. Well, thank you very much.
I have one last question, unless anyone else on the call has a question.
I,
Yeah,
I
actually,
Oh,
sorry.
go, go
I
ahead.
stepped on somebody there. Um, uh, Captain, you might, I think some of these questions with regard to traffic control and what have you probably stem from the 2008 incident, which I was here for. You
Right.
weren't, obviously,
Yeah.
but since the fire was burning in the Santa Ana River itself, traffic was even affected on the 91 freeway. So the question is, how far, and you said it was situational, I realize, but how far out within the county, including dealing with CHP as far as state highways are concerned, uh, do you reach? And then the second part of that is that I might be wrong about this, but I was under the impression that there's some kind of a traffic monitoring system that the county sheriff's department has, and how you might explain how that is utilized if it in fact exists.
Which traffic monitoring system are you referring to? Like a
Yeah,
live feed
I don't
that
have
Henry
specifics,
DiCarlo might be
unfortunately.
able to point out a morning news segment, or like the toll road or the
No,
91.
I'm sorry. I thought there were actually some cameras that monitor certain critical intersections. No?
So the city of Yorba Linda made sure that yes, we do. Not every city has integrated their cameras with our real-time operations center. So the blessing is that I think Brea Police Department, um, Yorba Linda, Anaheim has a very robust traffic monitoring system. So
Mhm.
in addition to those 36 flock cameras that the city purchased, we also have a very robust traffic cam network, of which I can walk down the hall to my briefing room and pull up the intersection of Yorba Linda Boulevard and Imperial Highway, or I can pull up Baston Cherry at Valley View, which seems to plague us with traffic collisions. But so I can pull up any one of those traffic cams in the city of Yorba Linda. I cannot do that with CHP's cameras that they might have on, say, the 91 freeway. But that's where we come back to relationships with the CHP. So that if we need to use CHP, we're making that call already.
Yeah, my point was that just a major incident like we had in 2008, it goes beyond just local streets
Absolutely.
to state highways, et cetera, and
Yes.
multiple cities from that
Yeah.
standpoint. So, okay. Well, anyway, just
If
so
we have, if that city specifically has integrated with the real-time operations center or with Fusus, we'll have access to it.
okay. All right. Thanks for
And
explaining.
and let me piggyback on that. Um, this is where technology is also taking us. Our schools who have video cameras, like say Yorba Linda High School. Actually, we haven't gotten them integrated yet. We're working on it right now. But Santa Margarita High School has completely upgraded or uploaded all of their cameras into the Fusus system. So if a call for service goes out, an emergency rings out, we can log in and capture those videos immediately. So that's what we're aiming for. We don't have 100% compliance out of 13 sheriff's contract cities. We're getting there, but Yorba Linda, I will say happily that we're completely integrated. And then also, maybe people might not know, but the IT manager that works for Yorba Linda is a reserve with the sheriff's department. So that's also another layer of relationship and embedded ownership, really, if you will.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Bob, want to bring us
Yeah,
home?
I've got more. Well, first of all, with regard to this whole surveillance thing, my wife and I went to China for the first time this past September.
Mhm.
And yeah, lots of surveillance, but as individuals, we're concerned about privacy. And I know you've got the law enforcement perspective on it,
Sure.
but in China, the people really feel like they're under the thumb of surveillance all the time. Okay, so
I
yeah.
wouldn't disagree with you.
So I think Americans have concerns about too much surveillance too, and losing some of their privacy, but that's not my main issue. Um, uh, in the 2008 fire, Steve Thomas, Diane, myself learned quite a bit about fire and evacuation. And since you weren't involved at that time, I just wanted to share some, which may bore some of the people, but one of the things we learned was that fire burns through grass practically at the speed of the wind, but
Mhm.
that wood and houses burn more slowly. That 2008 fire started in Corona around 9:30 in the morning. It got here to our cul-de-sac um, around 11:30 or noon, and we packed up and got out of here quick because it went whoosh by the end of the cul-de-sac, and so did everybody else.
Right.
And Via del Corral was not jammed, but Agua sure was, and it just wasn't moving. People weren't getting out onto Yorba Linda Boulevard, and people were going two cars side by side, sometimes three cars side by side, and the one of the houses on Roca that burned to the ground because they had deciduous trees in the backyard that caught the fi house on fire. They just ran. They didn't even get in their cars. It freaked them out so much they just ran. And those two cars in the driveway were at least 15, 20 feet from the house, but the house was so hot when it was burning, the two cars caught on fire and the wheels melted and the gasoline tank blew up. And yeah, um, so yeah, people freak out.
Yeah.
And so um, my wife and I had not set up a meeting place, which we should have, and we couldn't connect by the cell phone for about 12, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
She took the kids and the pet bird. I drove separately, and I wanted to go somewhere where it was going to be safe, not next to a fire. And so I parked in the parking lot at East Lake Village shopping center. And Diane and I talked about whether I should go back because to try and keep our house from burning down. And I wasn't sure if it was going to be too smoky. And but I did walk back, and it was smoky, but and I didn't really have a breathing mask. But it was okay. And I got back to the house about 20 minutes later, and there were bushes in the yard catching on fire. And so I used the hose to put them out and put out some bushes in the neighbor's uh, yard. But one on my walk back, again, this was when Brea was in charge, but they brought in help from the sheriff. And at the corner of San Antonio and Yorba Linda Boulevard, not far from your station, there was a sheriff's deputy directing westbound traffic on Yorba Linda Boulevard north onto San Antonio and blocking people from heading west on Yorba Linda Boulevard. He didn't know the area. He didn't understand where the fire was or the escape routes. So I'm really glad you've got these booklets now because
Yeah.
this guy from somewhere other part of the county misinterpreted what he was supposed to do. And when cars went up San Antonio, they were met with fire hoses across the street because the hoses were on the houses were on the east side of the street, and the fire hydrants were all on the west side. And so the hydrants were blocking anybody from moving on San Antonio. Um, and yeah, I ran into a couple deputies on foot, I think, on Via Corona. And when I got to our house, well, it was in about 4 in the afternoon. The house across the street caught fire. So long after the fire came through, it was embers from the house on Roca that landed on their wooden balcony and caught that house on fire. And they were not home; they had evacuated. As a matter of fact, he'd parked his Camaro right in front of the fire hydrant. So it made it hard for the firefighters to connect to the fire hydrant to try to save his house. Um, so yeah, I appreciate you listening to the story because yeah, that evacuation thing did not go well at all in 2008. I don't think either the residents or the uh, law enforcement were well prepared for it. And yeah, a whole bunch of houses burned, and yeah, it's seared into my mind that that sheriff's deputy who had come in to help Brea was sending people in the wrong direction.
That's frustrating.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Did you have a question, or are you good information to relay?
Oh, I was sharing, I was giving her a
Okay.
vicarious experience
Yes.
since she had not experienced it herself. I was giving her a vicarious experience of what it's like in Yorba Linda to have a fire evacuation.
Yes, terrifying. I have a follow-up question similar to Bob's kind of train of thought on evacuation. One of the things that we listed in the settlement agreement was practice evacuations. And I would be curious if we would be able to partner with the sheriff's department on implementing that.
We can definitely sit down and try and figure out the most effective way to do that. We don't generally do that, so this would be something where you learn and I learn and my team learns and your community learns as well. So I'm open to having that conversation and figuring
Great.
out if we can conduct some type of training. Of course, that would take some considerable planning because what I don't want to do is create mass hysteria. But um, you know, in the interest of ensuring people are prepared, if you've got an idea, I'm down to listen for it.
Cool.
Well,
You might,
I believe it's just for Cielo Vista, right?
Right, not the whole city, just our little area.
Right?
Right.
You say that.
Which-
I don't know. Are you a member of Yorba Linda Buzz?
Well,
I
one
should
potential
mention that we
idea
do
to
have
reduce
the
the,
Know Your Way plan, right?
Yeah, Know Your
For
Way is wonderful.
evacuation.
Yeah.
So you could piggyback on that to, just practice at least how the Know Your Way plan tells you what to do.
Yeah, tells you where to go.
yeah,
mean,
I was going to also
Mark-
say that one potential idea is to implement it tabletop style, which is you're not really doing it on the streets, but you're getting people in a room together and you're reading through it, right? I work in the technology industry, and so for the financial services, you have business continuity and disaster recovery. And it's done every year by regulation, tabletop style, where at least people are reading through it and have a better sense of it.
Yeah. But Melanie, if you and your Cielo Vista neighbors are willing to host us, we can do a tabletop, no problem at all. But if that, if that were to grow into something even bigger than that, even more preparation, I'm not gonna turn that down.
Okay, great. Well, we appreciate that opportunity. So
Sure.
thank you so much for your time, your great information, and your approach to preparedness. I'm sure, based on what you've said, you would be what I consider a prepper.
I
Um,
am.
Me too. So
Yeah.
if everyone could take a page from your book, I think that would be helpful. So
Thank you very much. Go home to your family.
Well,
yeah.
yeah. We had back to school night, so my husband was on duty tonight. So, or not back to school, open house. So
Open house.
my
Got it.
9-year-old is excited to show me her art projects, and I'm excited to get home. But thank you for inviting me to be part of the speaker series. I am excited. I love this job. I think I mentioned that earlier. This job means a lot to me, and preparation is key. We can't be too prepared, and I know that my team is well versed in terms of. Oh, here we go. We're gonna do another scenario. I don't care. I don't care. You can complain all you want, because what we're not going to do is be unprepared. So that's my jam, if you will. And because I live in this city too, like it means something. And granted, I might live on the West End where we're not in a high severity fire zone, um, but my family lives in and around this area as well. So even on the East End. So, and I have a couple of friends who lost homes in the 2008 fire. So that it matters to me. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share with you some of my team, and some of the fun things that we do each and every day. Sorry, it kind of came over as a little bit more of like an annual report, but I love what our team does, and I think it's super to be able to share that with people who live in the city and who also care about public safety. So thanks for having me, and I appreciate it.
Thank
Great. Thanks
you.
so much. We'll see everyone in May. Take care.
Thank you very much, Melanie.
Bye-bye.